remember a girl who used to love me. A perfect storm of sweet and mean. Well, I ain't never, ever, ever seen such a girl like that.
In this episode of Green Chili Chisme, Georgina Lightning joins us for a conversation that climbs mountains, literal and emotional. We talk about the passing of her mother, the mentors who saw her cinematic path before she did, and the brutal gatekeeping of early Hollywood where she couldn't even audition to be rejected. From Aaron Sorkin to Three Pines to her own film Trickster, Georgina opens up about transgenerational trauma, creative fire, and the delicate dance of being a visionary director without being labeled difficult. It's raw, reflective, and rooted in legacy. Today on Green Chili Chisme. How you doing?
Right in this moment, I'm doing excellent.
Awesome. That's great to hear. But anyways, I don't want to take up much of your time. Where are we reaching you at?
I am in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, in Treaty 6 territory.
Okay. So that's actually right around where you're from, that area, aren't you? Tell me about your parents and where you grew up.
Okay, so my parents are both born in Alberta, but my father was from Treaty 8 territory. My blood is from Treaty 8. That's where I'm from, way up north in Alberta in the bush. And because of residential school, he aged out of high school at St. Mary's boarding school in Edmonton. And he met my mom while he was in his graduating year. And back then, the way it was is you have a little romance to get someone pregnant. There's a shotgun at your head, like marriage. And so, it was an instant marriage. My mom was only 14 years old.
Wow. And your dad was how old?
A very young mom. And my mom just passed. We're actually having her celebration of life on.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and blessed that she's gone on to the next realm.
Absolutely. She's soaring high, I do a lot of ceremony and I feed her spirit all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, and my dad left us when I was 18. He committed suicide. He was running from his demons his whole life. We watched him suffer and struggle the whole time, right?
Right.
He was institutionalized from 3 years old to 18. So, he had an institutionalized mind, and he comes from a lot of abuse. And I was just telling my son last night, because my son is having an identity kind of struggle right now, right? What do I come from? Who am I and all that? Cody Lightning. He just finished shooting and producing another feature film. This one's called Smudge the Blaze, a comedy hockey movie. And he's struggling with things right now personally. He disconnected recently from the world and told his manager and agent, I gotta unplug for a minute and I gotta figure out some stuff. And he's talking to me like, who do I come from? Where do I come? Look at like Muslim and Kuka, like my mom and dad, right? And their legacy, who they were and how they struggled and everything. And it's like, no, you don't understand. My mom is the buffalo and my dad is the elk, and they're strong. My mom's resilience is incredible. She was 81, she passed.
Oh, wow.
She would have lived, but she got a smoking disease called vascular disease. So she was amputated, and then her second amputation, we were with her in the hospital for 6 weeks, and then I was getting ready on a Wednesday, prepping a bunch of meals and getting ready to bring her home Thursday, and she left us on Wednesday.
Wow.
She made her mind that she didn't want to go home as an amputee, I guess.
Right. You ought to remember her the way it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was a proud woman, and she was very active, and my mom was a champion. They went through hell and high water, and my mom would still be able to sit in a room with people she loved and laugh and celebrate and have good times,
That's amazing.
And so look at who you come from. They're so strong, and yes, they struggled. They were, like, my mom comes from family, and my dad comes from residential school, like genocide. So they're both really harsh, you know,
That's
harsh
that's.
bloodlines that's inherited, right?
And how old is your son?
He's 38 now.
You see, and I totally understand what you're saying because about a year and a half ago, I did the same thing. I cut off from the world for about a year, because I come from ancestors, half are from the indigenous Mexican people. And then I am a brother is Diego Pedraza, who was the first surgeon of the New World. So it's complicated.
It is complex.
And that.
I had a child, Chris, right? And she had a different father. And then I had my two sons, and they kind of don't really understand like how each other functions. And it's like, my daughter, like, you have to understand these two boys have different inheritance. Their epigenetics, right? Their
Right.
Genealogy and their molecular structure is different. Their brain's different. What they inherited is different. They are complicated, and they come from severe lineage of trauma. And we just have to be loving and understanding. When they need to unplug and disappear, we just have to bless, their journey and love them from afar and just wait for them to return, when they figure it out, right?
And that's DNA, that's DNA. That's just them. That's who they are.
Yeah.
But we're getting into the weeds here. So let's go back a little bit more, like your grandparents. What do you remember about your grandparents?
My mom was the top of our mountain. I really mean that. Like, if you look at the mountain, right, my mom was the whole top half, because I didn't have aunties and uncles and grandmas and grandpas. My mom was everything.
Wow. Okay.
So now I feel I'm 100% alone. Like, I don't have anybody to go to, and nobody calls me on the daily going, hey, what do you got going on today? What's happening? And then, you got some at 4 o'clock, and I'm checking at 4 o'clock. How did your meeting go at 4 o'clock? And okay, good night. Like, on the daily, my mom was that. And she loved me. She's the human in the planet that loved me unconditionally. Whether I was broken, sick, champion, laying down sick, she always loved and accepted who I was in any given moment. She was the witness to my life. So, yeah, I don't have any grandparents. I had to write eulogies, which I'm still working on. I had to actually reach out and say, who was my mom before I was born? Because I don't have family that ever talked about stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, that's
no clue. So
pretty tough.
I know everything about my dad's side. I was able to discover through cousins, but not through my mom's side. So I'm on a real major discovery on that, and I don't know who's going to show up on Sunday, but they'll hopefully be able to teach me something.
Yeah, make sure you record everything. Record as much as you can. So having such a strong mom, how did that shape your camera eye? When did you start getting interested in film and going in that direction? So
in Edmonton, where I live, there is no such thing as a film community. And I learned that the hard way by going to, I went to college and then university. I was at the University of Alberta, and there was nothing going on for stage theater, and it wasn't even all that. So I came in, and the dean of the school said, Georgie, we see that this is what you want, this is your passion. So many people come to university because they're forced to, their parents force them. Mm-hmm. You have to go to university. They don't know what they want to be yet, so they spend a year or two in drama, like, I'll just around in the arts. And then they grow up and go, I want to be a nurse or a doctor or something. Right. And they major. But we can see this is your fire. So we are not going to be able to satisfy you. You need to go to a better school if you really want that. And that planted a seed. At first I was like, I'm married, I have 3 kids, I can't, I was a teen mom and all that other stuff, so yeah, within a year I was divorced, and I had flown to LA we had our divorce vacation in Disneyland, and I got to research in the library, and fell in love with the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and the goal I thought was to be an actress. Mm-hmm. So I was going to be an actor, and I thought, that way I get to be those powerful people on the screen. right? But I later learned it's not being an actress. Um, I did 3 years at the Academy, and when I got into film, and I saw some, like, the roles were pathetic, right? The racism was insane in Hollywood. You could not audition for a role unless it said Native American. And in the 90s, if you looked at any of the movies produced in the 90s, there were no significant female Indigenous roles.
Right.
And even though I was Academy trained and repertory, highly trained actress and could, like, any role, I mean, I proved at the Academy with Shakespeare and Isbin and Molière, etc.
Wow, yeah.
They would not let me even let me audition to get rejected on any other role, and it had to say, and it was like 2 or 3 lines in Geronimo or Broken Chain or one of the, Tecumseh, one of those movies, a very small role, very unsatisfying. It was heartbreaking, and when I did get roles in something like West Wing, where you're just a puppet and you stand there and you have to be, they're very specific. There's no reward in that. And I went, wow, it's not even being an actress. It's the story that matters.
Right.
The story is, that's what my spirit wants.
That's some heavy learning there.
When you're working for somebody like that, when I went in to audition, for example, you go to NBC, you're auditioning, and you see everybody, because we all audition at the same time. During Thanksgiving for the Turkey Day Guild stuff, and then just before summer for the Leathers and Feathers. So we see each other twice a year. We all know each other because we're in the same community, and Hollywood film for Indigenous people are so small, so we're like family, right? And I was the only one with 3 kids. They couldn't understand, like, how are you doing this with your kids? But my kids were actually the ones that gave me the power to do it, because you have no choice.
Yes.
But we didn't figure it out. So I hosted all the events at my house. So I had a family home. Everyone else was like bunked with 3 guys, or the guys in a stinky little apartment, roommating or whatever. And I had a house, so I had all the events, and you become family with everybody. But during that West Wing audition, everybody's like visiting. Oh, hey, how's it going? And they were pairing us up for that West Wing one. It was called the Butterball Hotline, or Indians.
Oh, I totally remember it. Totally remember the episode. I love that show.
So they had me and Steve Rivas read together. So they were having men and women read together, because remember, it was a man and woman in the lobby, right? So Steve Rivas, and Steve didn't really work that good on his lines. And one of my gifts that I learned at the Academy is improv. I can improv like there's no tomorrow. And I can also, when I'm studying my lines, the technique I have makes me learn the other people's lines as well. So I could pick up where Steve dropped the ball, right, when he didn't have his lines. And so we're improvising, and when he didn't have his lines, I'm picking it up and I'm making it work. And pretty soon they're like, wow, okay, so it's over. And I went, we're not going to get that. Right? So we all went to Birds on Franklin Boulevard. Let's go, and then the next wave, they can join us. Hey guys, we're all going to Birds. Let's all meet up for lunch. We just get there, we get seated, and all of a sudden my phone rings, my cell phone, and it's like, hey, my agent says, Georgina, they want to cast you. No callback, nothing. I'm like, what?
Wow.
We didn't even, what? Really? And yeah, they want to cast you. They think you did a great job. However, you improvised a lot in that audition.
I was going to say that.
I'm just telling you, when you come to set, you have to be word perfect. Word perfect. You cannot improvise at all. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And that was my kind of thing, right? My jam. So like, okay, I was word perfect. And we get to the set, and I learned that Gary Farmer was the one that they cast as the male. So Gary and I have the scene. And Gary wanted to change one word in the thing. They had to stop everything and have a meeting and get Aaron in there to change one word.
Yep.
That's how specific they are. So instead of we will then become sovereign, Gary wanted to say we will still be sovereign.
Well, that's a big difference.
That was the difference, right?
Yeah.
And Aaron approved it, but that's how little, on TV it's so different from film, which I'm trying to, teach this younger generation. When you work for TV, it's much different. You don't have the power. It's the producer's medium, right?
Right.
Whereas in film, the director has power because it's more of a director's medium. So, the director didn't have the control to say, you can change one word. I mean, it was a big ruckus, and Aaron, at the end of the day, gets to say yes or no. And so, that was my experience. But it literally was, stand here, look here, put your head that way. Like, it was that specific, right to the T.
I've heard enough podcasts from these other actors talking about Aaron. Like, that's it.
Yeah. There's no skill you have. You're not coming to bring nothing. You're coming to do what you're told.
To say lines.
So you do this, yeah. Then look at her and say this line, and then look at him. Like, I mean, it was that calculated.
That's crazy.
So of course, you go, wow, it's like, yeah, big deal. Like, as an actor, it wasn't a rewarding experience, because you're cast to do what you're told.
You're part of the machine.
Do not bring nothing to the table. Just do it you're set. So like, that's when it's like, you compare that experience to my experience on Older Than America with my directing debut.
Right, we're getting to that one.
There's not even words, right? When I had the opportunity to direct my first feature, like, first of all, I was overwhelmed, and I was so, like, the pressure is so
I can't even
right?
imagine.
And I'm a female, and back then, there wasn't any Indigenous female directors.
No.
It's like, you're directed, and you got to make sure it's amazing.
So in
that, you're never gonna have
in that moment, did you realize that you were breaking ground? In the moment?
No, I didn't think in that way. Like, I'd always had the desire. I worked on a film as an acting coach, and they dubbed me a producer because I ended up working in every department.
Right.
And they said, you've done so much work, we'd have to put your name on a million titles, so we're just going to give you a producer role. It's like, oh, okay, that's great. So, and I learned on, it's Dreamkeeper. That's the movie. So Stephen Barron directed it, and John Fusco wrote it, right? And it was the largest speaking cast to date. And I was overwhelmed with joy. Like, oh my God, over 100 speaking roles? That was history.
Yeah,
and
big
I was
time.
excited for that. Like, wow, I get to work with these actors. And it was several different tribes, right? Mocmomac, the Cheyenne, the Blackfoot, and the Lakota. So all these different nations were represented in this one film. It was so exciting. John Fusco, we were on a flatbed riding over this buffalo hill, right? Getting ready to shoot the buffalo scene. And he goes, Georgie, how come you're not directing your own stuff? What? He goes, yeah, how come you're not directing? That's what you're doing here. I said, no, I'm not. I'm coaching well, and I'm working with the other departments. He goes, you're taking the script, you're breaking it down, working with the actors. That's what a good director does. Steve was a cinematographer, so that's why he had to hire you to do that work with the actors. That's the goal.
Yep.
The story is the master document. Then everybody is serving that story. Your job is to take it, interpret all the actors, the roles, the characters, and then help the actors bring that to life. And that's what you're doing. And it planted a seed, and it has such a fertile garden, just like go to a different school. And a year later, I was in the
Exactly.
school. It planted a seed, and then I went, wow. All of a sudden, I got funding. Somebody had a meeting with me and said, Jordy, we're going to give you funding for your first feature. We've seen you traveling for a year, working so hard to get private funding, and nobody seems to be supporting. So we're gonna get you behind you. And I was like, wow. So that's when it's like, well, what story am I gonna tell? I have to pick the right story. And the things that always stood out to me was the racism when I came back home to Edmonton. When I had been gone so long, and I hadn't had to deal with that kind of stuff for so long, and I had no tolerance. I learned. When I come back to Edmonton, and the ignorance and the severe, in-your-face racism was like, wow, do these people know why my brothers and sisters are on the streets? Why they're addicts? Why we're the highest in every epidemic? No, they just have this grown, built-in hatred. Like, they're taught to hate the Indigenous people.
So, and unfortunately, it's coming back, but I digress.
You know, so Older Than America was about that. It was about addressing the ignorance. If you understand that my dad went to residential school, will you still judge him in the same way?
Right.
Or will you understand and have compassion? Wow, he had to come out of that and into this racist society. He ran a business. He owned, you know, he was a pioneer in so many things. So I get that from my father. Like just going in and saying, I'm going to do this.
That
I get
drive.
that all from my dad. Taking a risk and moving with 3 kids to LA, that's my dad.
That's
100%.
huge.
My mom's very organized, very, you know, very routine oriented, and she would never deviate, and she follows the rules, and this is the way it goes, and this is my duty and function. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. You know, I'm like, nah, this is what I want, and I can do it, and I can go for it. And you just do it. You don't even second guess that. So, you know, that was my naivety, is thinking I could go to Hollywood, and if I work my hardest, that I'll have an incredible career. But that's not the case, because everybody else is hearing and weighing in, right? And they have different attitudes. And it's like, to them, you're just a squaw, bush nigger, wagon burner. That's who you are. And, you know, it's a man's world. When I went to Hollywood, it was more sexist than ever, right?
Oh,
Racist,
that was
and
probably the highlight of it.
Yeah, nice white Jewish men sitting in Hollywood executive offices making the decisions on who got greenlit and what got greenlit.
Yep.
There's no people of color in anything, and women, forget about it.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot more diverse, and I believe because of Netflix and the streaming that have taken the power away from Hollywood. Now we've got a whole array of choices, and because of the digital world that exploded, we now have accessible. You know, you can make a film with an iPhone.
Exactly.
How incredible is it?
Exactly, you
know?
can, and
It's amazing.
they've won awards.
And I tell my kids that I was born a few decades too early. You know, with the vision and dream that I have, it's now possible in the world that we live in. It's now possible to build an empire. It's now possible to be the Indigenous Warner Brothers. You know what I mean?
I think you were probably born at the time you were supposed to be born, because without that experience, it would mean nothing today.
Yeah?
You know?
Yeah.
Before we get away from your mom, what family traditions do you want to keep carrying over and making sure your daughters know and your sons carry on?
You know, there's none. I actually, you know, pave my own way. I don't believe in Christian. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't follow Christian holidays. I made that declaration to my family. You know, my family who does the Hallmark holidays, like this is Christmas,
right,
this is Valentine's, this is Easter, all this crap that I don't believe in any of it. And you know, I felt so pressured because they would get angry, like this is the way it is, right? And I just, you know, when my kids got older, I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm putting it out to the world. I won't be here. I'm doing my own thing. During those days, I'm going to do winter solstice. And so I was always by myself. I'd be, you know, in an Airbnb somewhere, and I'd have a white tree, and I'd put tobacco ties on it, and I'd celebrate solstice, right? I'd do it my own way, and I didn't have anyone really to celebrate with, because everybody was still on that train doing the Christian thing, right? Even though we're Indigenous, and but yeah,
I'm the same way. I'm totally the same way, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I go to Sundance, and my first Sundance I went with Don McLarnon in like 33 or 34 years ago in South Dakota at Dickie Moose Camp. That was my very first Sundance, and it changed my life. And I'll never go back to that Christian, you know, belief system. I don't feel pressured. My kids are older; they understand.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter has a son, so she feels compelled. It's like there's no way to escape it because he's in a school. And
it's surrounded. You're surrounded by it.
Christmas ornaments and the bunny rabbits on Easter, like all this stuff that they're indoctrinated.
All the commercialism.
No escape. Yeah, we don't have schools yet. We don't have schools that support others yet. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, whether you're in a public school or a non-public school, they all celebrate the Christian holidays.
Right.
That whatever the kind of holidays are called, right? The Hallmark stuff, and yeah, they're just so yeah. I end up being by myself quite a bit on those days, and so what I brought to the city of Edmonton is I have full moon ceremonies every full moon. So it's like I'm gonna start. When I got cancer, I went. You know, it got to be where I couldn't travel anymore. Like, you know, I was driving to Queensland in British Columbia. It's 13 hours away I would drive to go cold plunge because I was trying to get my stem cells to readjust my immune system while I was battling cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that 13-hour drive would take me 4 days because the pain was so insane, right? I'd have to get out a lot and I'd have to walk. My back was killing me. It was just like, oh, it was a mess. But it would be a meditation to drive and be alone and plunge, come back every full moon. I would do that. And then I decided I can't travel anymore. I'm too broken. So I'm going to bring that to my city. I'm going to start doing that and I'm going to open it up to the world. Anyone who wants to come and celebrate this full moon ceremony with me, please come. And so it's every month. We have full moon, so I'm actually having my monk celebration of life on the full moon. It's the blood moon on Sunday. So people are learning different ways, alternative ways through these full moon ceremonies, and you know, I'm hoping that way, you know, I invite anybody. I don't care what gender, what race, what anything. Like, you know, I believe in the 8th fire prophecy, where it's like there's going to come a day when there's such a spiritual deficit. It's up to the Indigenous people, the red people, to share wisdom and knowledge about spirit. It will be not religious, right? It's the spirit, the relationship and connection, and the power that the individual has with spirit. And so that's kind of my path, right? And I know there's other people out there. I just haven't found. They don't live in Edmonton.
Well, you know who you remind me of? A very good friend of mine, Nashville Grand Ole Opry star Stephanie Urbina Jones. Are you familiar with her?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, she is right up your alley. She's in Peru right now doing a movement. You know, with she takes people to these places and does these magical things. And so she's in Peru right now as we speak. Yeah, you two should. I would definitely connect you two together because you two are two feathers of the same bird. I'm telling you.
I love it. That's me.
So let's get back on track here. So we've already kind of gone through a lot of my questions about when your first story mattered, and we realized that coming to America. Let's get more recently. I saw Three Pines, and I loved that show. That was a great little miniseries. I guess it was like eight episodes. I guess it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. Tell us about getting onto that show.
You know, most of the stuff that I've done is done by non-Indigenous producers. They're the ones that hire me. In Canada, there's a lot of Indigenous producers and directors, but they don't hire me for some reason, even though I could play any role and I have the confidence to take any script and develop anything and give from my heart and soul. But yeah, it's non-Indigenous. It was this, you know, I had an audition and somebody said, we saw you and your daughter on Trickster.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie too. Yeah.
So they saw Crystal and I on Trickster, and they auditioned both of us, and they cast us both as a mother-daughter again. It's like, so it was because of Trickster, right? So, but we got to work with Fred, like some really incredible actors on that.
It was a
really
great
awesome
show.
Beautiful team of people that were producing it, that worked on that. So, you know, and I love working with people that have, you know, a bigger expanse of experience and knowledge than I do, because I get to just sit there and be that bird and watch these incredible machines at work and go, wow, look at this. You know, look what they assembled to create this incredible content. And I feel so blessed I get to be a part of it and to work with my daughter, you know.
Even better. And it shows
incredible.
On the screen, it shows your chemistry with the whole cast. It just shows. You can tell. You know, that's what makes it so good. Anyways,
Oh, good. I'm glad.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I love. I have to go rewatch it again now that we're talking about it. Um, um, how do you know when, as a director, I've done 8 shorts. I'm getting ready to do my 9th short, um,
Uh-huh.
and hopefully October we're gonna pull it off. But how do you know, as a director or as a writer, when it's done, when that's enough?
Good one. Um, you know, I think with sitting in the editing room and you've gone, let me experience. Like now you've got you know everybody's going, it's done, and you're going, no, hang. I had this idea last night. Like it won't leave you. The story won't leave you,
They
right?
won't
It's
leave
got
you.
its own spirit in you, and that it came to you to tell, and you're obligated to it. And so it's like I have to serve this story. Sorry, but we have to. I wanted to see how you can rearrange this. We already did that, did we? Oh, okay. Like and you've done every combination and played with the timeline, and you've done every you've color corrected, you've checked every musical cue, and then you go, you know what? I sit there and nothing's coming to mind. There's nothing else I can explore in this. I've done it over and over again, and I've tortured my editor because I'm a perfectionist in that way. That if I sit there later and go, damn. So when people say at film festivals, Georgina, if there's anything you could change in that movie, what would it be? I can honestly say nothing. You know what it was, and if this is what I had to work with, and I feel like I worked my butt off. I didn't slack off. I've never had that yet. There's a documentary where I can't say that though, because my goal was this, and I only got that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it bums me out to this day. Like I always think of that. It haunts me. It's like that story was supposed to be told in a certain way, and yeah, I didn't get the depth that I wanted or the complexity I wanted. I don't know. It just didn't exist for me, and the timing was wrong to capture the content I wanted. It didn't come to fruition the way I did. So documentaries are different, right? Because it's a different beast, and that's something I've had to learn. I never thought I would get exploring into the whole documentary world. My whole love and passion is narrative, with working with characters, actors, bring me a story and let me create, dig my hooks in there and see what I can create. That's the magic. Documentary is fact based. It's so hard, but it's something that I've been doing because I don't know. I called my name one day and I was just like, oh my god. Sorry. Actually, Chief Willie Wilson called me and said, Georgie, we have this fund and we love your movie. Would you like to make a documentary? I said, no, dude, I don't make documentaries. But thank you. Flattered. That's a completely different beast. And I work with narrative stuff. Like, no, I don't even know how to. I'm intimidated by documentary filmmaking. So then something happened in my personal life. 6 months later, I'm like, hey, is that fund still available? And he goes, yes, it is. So I applied for it, and that's what grandmother's medicine came out of that experience. It's a very personal and intimate story, and that is something that it's the longest project I've ever worked on. I put it to rest. I walked away from it because I can't stand it. It's so personal and so deep, and I was too afraid to reveal it to the world because I thought it would be career suicide, to be honest. So personal, and you can really see the trauma, the childhood trauma, the transgenerational trauma in our bloodline. But after dealing with cancer and after losing my mom, I'm like, something woke up in me, and I have to go back to that story. I'm going to go back to grandmother's medicine, and I'm going to finish it.
Where can we watch that now online somewhere, or is it?
No.
No.
I have it in my vault. And yeah, I didn't know it was. I always thought it was going to be a trip. When I started working with it, I went, this is too big. Grandmother's medicine, behind closed doors, and then it came to me. The third one is going to be reclaiming sacred kinship and rites of passage, and that's going to address what we talked about earlier, Dave, about holidays, right? Like
right.
what customs or traditions are you going to bring to your children? It's gonna there's things that we didn't experience as a family. Like we should have had rites of passage. We should have had, the walking out ceremony and the placenta ceremony and the sunrise ceremony for my daughter when she got her moon time. Like all those rites of passage didn't happen, and And I believe that we would all be in such a better place had we started with that. We'd have a struggle be so much stronger. We would struggle less. So I think that film is going to be the bookend to that trilogy that I started.
I'm gonna have to pick your brain because I, with Stephanie's helping me on this project about my ancestor, Diego Pedraza, who was one of the first surgeons. He was the first surgeon of the New World. He helped build the first hospital in the New World, the Hospital of Jesus, which is in Mexico City. It's still open, and it's a documentary is hard. Like you're saying, it's a whole different beast, and I'm a narrative person and obsessed as you are with my family history. But grandfather, I wanted to start it kind of backwards with my grandfather, who was, I'm sorry for the noise above, my grandfather who was a child conscript in Pancho Villa's Army of the North. And so, as a, he was 12 when he was conscripted into the army, and we have pictures of him in his whole thing. So, the only time the United States proper, the mainland has ever been invaded was when Pancho Villa invaded Columbus, New Mexico. He hit an ammo depot there. Well, my grandfather, who was maybe 15 or 16 at this time, was a part of that. And upon retreat, he boogied to the left towards California, and he could have been killed by both armies if he was found. And he ended up being himself in a mine, working in a mine in Arizona, where the army came looking for recruits, and he didn't speak any English, and he joined the Army Air Corps, and he retired as a Master Sergeant of the Army Air Corps. So yeah, that's where it's going to start.
The Army for the U.S.?
The U.S. Army Air Corps, yeah. So he was in the Pancho Villa Army and all of that battle, and then escaped that,
yeah,
and joined the United States Army when World War I happened. And they taught him English.
Wow.
And I have found articles, newspaper articles about him. He was captured during World War I and by cannibals and all this crazy stuff about my grandpa. Anyways, but that's where the documentary is going to start, and we're going to go backwards to the landing of Diego Pedraza on the shores of Mexico when he.
What an incredible film that would be, and so. Right now, Dave, we need your film. That film would be so brilliant with what's going on right now, with immigrant, all that craziness over there. This would be a brilliant film right now.
It's
wow.
Stephanie. She is like I was telling you, she's a lot like you in that spiritual sense, and she has a home actually very near where my grandfather was born. So, and I don't speak Spanish because when I was growing up, they did not allow us to speak Spanish. They would not allow us to speak Spanish. So she's going to be my translator, plus she's going to do the music for it. I was praying about it, and because it's hard. The funding for this is going to be nearly impossible. I'm going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it on our own. In this day and age, it's going to be nearly impossible. But we're planning maybe 27 or 28. We're gonna start filming. So we have time to apply for grants and stuff, but the story's all together. Anyways, I'm sorry to get away from that. Let's go back to you. Not your creative risk, but what's a creative risk that you've taken that changed everything? Was it a terrifying thing, or jumping in on the deep end of something, or what was a creative risk that you've taken?
That's a great question. I think my transition from being an actor to the film industry, really, because it was unknown territory. I wasn't educated in that world, and to me, as when John told me on that cart in the Buffalo cart there, like, you should do this, it's like I was so intimidated. Like, I need to take class. I'll have to go back to school again, and I'll have to go my hair. And it's like, no, because you're doing it already. But I did go take some directing labs with IFC, IFP, pardon me, independent film producers, and I went to New York to their lab. I did take some intensives and all that kind of stuff and read some books, but taking that plunge, I think Older Than America was the biggest risk because it's like if I'm jumping into unknown territory, and not only that, racially but gender-wise, right? I'm a female Indigenous, and what they teach you in film school at that time is you better know exactly what you want when you get to your set because you're a woman. And like your DP, everybody's going to be way more experienced than you, and they're going to take over your set. That's just how it happens. So you have to know exactly what you want. You have to be direct. This is what I want, but still not be a bitch. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, you don't
exactly.
want to be so how are you going to do it? You got to figure out how to balance being direct, being firm, being confident, but not being a bitch. It's like, wow, because they all, in that world, they equate you like, wow, look at her, But I did. I went there and I had even the color palette for every wardrobe for every character figured out. So it's like, I'm gonna this room is a pukey beige because it's disgusting in that experience, and this wall is gonna be colored this. Like I had everything figured out. So when I went in, I think because I was so organized in what I wanted and so direct about what I wanted. And I was always very, very gracious and constantly thanked everybody. Please, I accept any wisdom and knowledge in this experience, but this is what I would like. Blah, 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 blah. They just went, okay. And, at the end of the day, that's what I wanted, and I thanked them. I said, this is exactly what I wanted, you guys. Oh, my God. And I would get so excited. I did this thing called the Happy Dance. They gave me more than I ever expected. My crew actually gave me more, and I learned a very valuable lesson on that. As long as you're gracious and humble and you know what you want and you're very respectful, you get more than you expect, more than I ever expected. It's like, okay, I need an example of 3 different guns for her in this. They bring me 8.
Yeah, there you go.
So, like, here, look at this. Like, wow, look at this. Oh, my God, I didn't even think of this. This is an incredible idea. Thank you. And then when you see the shot in there and you go, that's it. That's the take. We got it, guys. And I was like, woohoo! They go, she did the Happy Dance, and they're all watching. It's like such a reward system. We're all getting oxytocin from accomplishing this.
Oh, great feeling.
With ideas, like, you know what? I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I go, you know what? This scene needs a fun. We need to answer this scene. We actually need to have a graveyard where we see them do this, and this isn't in the script. Are you guys sorry? And they go, Georgie, what do you want? And pretty soon, they got the community to build a graveyard, and it's like, we threw this scene in at 4 o'clock for you.
Wow.
Like, oh my God. It was such a blessing and such a, it cemented the way I want to work for the rest of my life was on that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So let's I don't want to keep it too much longer. We're already hitting pretty close to an hour here. Is there something on your IMDb tucked away that you wish more people knew about?
Oh, wow. I think Secret History of the Wild West is a series that I worked on, and I worked on it from research to directing, producing, casting, everything on it. And unfortunately, because of the experience, which, I was working with a very, and I hate to do this, but the man that I was working with was a tyrant.
Mm.
And, I went in, I was living in Santa Fe, and, hey, we want you to direct 3 episodes of this series. Would you consider that? And when I saw the teaser, I went, I'm in. I'm a female, I have a hot chick action flick, and nobody will even look at me as being an Indigenous woman. You can't make an action movie. It's like, whatever. So if I get action under my belt, perfect. It's a lot lower budget. It was for a smaller broadcast license, smaller audience, but I didn't care. Like, when I saw the teaser, I was so in love with it, and like, this is going to be exciting. And so I left my home, and I went to Canada, to Calgary, where it was minus 1,000, and I was just freezing my ass off. And 3 episodes. After the first episode, the showrunner said, you know what, we love your style. Would you actually be the lead director of the whole thing? And I said, oh my God, I'd love to. So I got 5 in. I got 5 under my belt before I finally walked off set. And I didn't know what was going to happen, Dave. You know, I got so sick of it, like the abuse on set. I hugged more tears on that set than I had in my whole career.
Crazy.
You know, the service lady or the wardrobe lady crying behind the door, like, what's going on? Constant things where they were getting screamed at, yelled at, whatever. And and me too. We get into screaming matches because I would defend and protect people. It's like,
right.
This is our system. And the way I understand things is, as an Indigenous person, if we get to the point where we're on set, you know how hard it was to get here. This is our happy place. All of that hard work is done. Now we get to play and have fun with our art, dude. This is a sacred space, and you're violating people. I mean, that he's straight flies.
Ruining it.
Iron shit, you know. And I was like, it's so yucky. And so I told my crew, I said, you know, at one point, if he yells at me, screams at me one more time, I'm off the set. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping that it will correct things, but if it doesn't, I love you guys. This is cool. Working with you. And they're all like, no, do it.
Don't do it.
You know? One day, and Julian just goes, Lightning, is there any notes? Like, and I went, oh, gross.
That's it?
And I'm not going to do this, guys. I love you, and I'm walking off. I don't know what's going to happen. So I did. I walked off, got Transpo to take me up to the top. The line producer's calling me, Georgie, are you quitting or leave? What are you doing? And I said, I don't know. I just know I can't be on
doing
that
something.
Set. And we need to figure this out because something has to change. And if, you know, I'm the director and a producer, and if I don't do something, nobody is. These people are, like even our DP, you know, we're down there, we're getting ready for a shot, and all of a sudden he goes, oh my God, here comes Julian. And I go, this is insane. We shouldn't be like, oh my God, threatened every time that somebody comes around.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, like,
scared.
It's so gross.
It's
you know,
terrible.
yeah. You know, in the end, what happened is he couldn't come down to, like I offered, like, you know, the Directors Guild, they said, is there any way we could fix this? I said, well, you know, I'm open to it. But, and they said if we can get him to apologize. I said, yes, I said, I think that would be fine, as long as he can. And then I went, no, you know what, I don't trust him, because he lied about everything, getting me over here. So the only way I'll do it is if we get into a sweat lodge. And he's Blackfoot, apparently. I'll go to his, I'm Cree, but I'll go to his comfort zone. I'll come out of my comfort zone, I'll go to a Blackfoot lodge, and I'll sweat with him. And then we'll leave everything with the grandfathers. And if he does that, then I can believe it, because you can't bullshit in there.
Right.
So we said, wow, we love that. And we'll even pay for it. We'll take care of it. Is there any fun? Well, no. I mean, there's fees, there's stuff, but no, you know. And so let him know I'm open to going to a sweat. And they told him that, and he said, okay, he would, but he never did.
He never did.
So that was the end of that project. And I mourned it. Because I saw myself being a part of that for a couple seasons, you know, for as long as it lasted. I went, wow, we're going to go through all these chiefs and these nations and treaties to his secret history of the Wild West. Stuff that people don't know about our chiefs in different treaty regions here. And it's stuff I love, right? And so, and next season's going to be the women. Oh my God, this is so juicy. I love it. But yeah, I had to mourn it and say goodbye to it, and it's like it just wasn't meant to be. Oh well, and yeah.
We're gonna.
I upset, you know.
Well, that is a big risk, yeah. We're gonna jump back to that because before you left Santa Fe, me and you met, but we'll do that off. Let me ask you one more question here. The word legacy, what does it mean to you, and what do you hope to leave as your legacy?
Oh man, what I hope to leave is I want Tribal Line Production, my company, to be a functioning, like I said earlier, the Indigenous Warner Brothers, where it has that kind of club that projects can get greenlit because based on the quality of content that we produce. So, you know, for a while I was so disheartened that I left the industry for a while.
Right.
You know, went in a different direction. But, you know, then I woke up one day and went, this is who I am. And after, it was after the the King murder, right?
Mm.
When Hollywood and the riots in LA and everything was upside down, and all of a sudden people were actually, talking about racism. And my friends would go, "Oh, maybe this will change things in the film industry." I said, "No, it won't. It never has. Yeah, maybe it will. Maybe it will. No, it won't." I was so jaded by that time. The industry, I can't do this anymore. And sure enough, it changed it. Pretty soon there was all these windows and doors and opportunities opening, and wow, shit, maybe I should get back in this game. And so, I came back and I went full force. It's like, I'm not just going to go one project at a time. I'm going to build a whole slate. And then COVID happened, and I just kept building and building. So I have a whole, I have scripted, unscripted. I have full-length feature docs, full-length feature narrative. Every genre you can think of. We have Bear Grease is a musical. It's a big, like the old 50s MGM musical.
Oh, wow.
Bear Grease is a musical. All the way to Salesman of the Year, which is a really serious, fact-based narrative feature about 60s people, right?
Oh, wow.
Based on a true story. So, and everything in between. I have my hot chick action stuff, we have a martial arts, a special ops one. We have so many projects. I have a comedy, like a sitcom, insane sitcom. That's like a Simpsons one, right, where it's so audacious.
That's my greatest fear, is comedy. I cannot be.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I could write comedy, but I definitely want to produce it.
Right.
And I'm surrounding myself with people who can, because it's like I have this vision, this concept came to me, and I want it to life. So what I've done is I'm creating this slate, all the proofs of concept we're shooting right now, and I've got all the pitch decks. So it's like, what are you looking for? And what I'm hoping for is I'm going to have such an impressive slate. And instead of getting rejected constantly, which is what I learned is happening in Canada.
Yep.
My first time ever getting government funding, because the government funds things, and people used to go, "Come to Canada. There's so much here. There's so much opportunity." I did, and I've done the work, and I've gotten rejected so many times. Sorry, but we're not going to fund this movie. Sorry, but we're not going to fund that. So, it's nonstop, and I'm going, wow, this is interesting. All this, you say opportunity, but at the end of the day, when they release the news, it's like they put $2.6 million into 6 Indigenous projects. It's like, what? 2.6 for 6 projects? I'm never going to make it, because I don't make those kind of micro.
Yeah, that's
movies.
really small.
The thinking is like $3.5 million is the lowest budget I have. So I'm screwed. So I'm like, now I have to think of a new funding strategy, which is like, let's get the whole project, all the slates, and make it really impressive, and get the whole slate funded. So it's like, you're not risking on one project. You're gonna, it'll even out, because even if this project doesn't hit well, or this one might hit well and cover all of them. So it's just a smarter strategy for an investor to get behind a slate instead of one individual.
I think
project. So that's
what your legacy is going to be. Yeah, that's amazing. That's going to be, to pull that off. I may try and jump in there on some of your stuff too. Who knows?
Yeah. Then my kids can, because Cody's, he's on his second feature. Crystal's, agreed to co-direct with me to learn how to direct her screen. She was at first said no, and I'm too intimidated, this and that, just like I was, 30 years ago. But I said, no, Crystal, you've already done first stage. You've taken res Indians, and you made them touring, functioning, honest, for 3 years kind of Indians, and so that you've accomplished miracles.
That's pretty
big
miracle.
You can do it, and I'll walk you through it. So she's going to be my co-director on my next film.
That's awesome.
And so, and my son-in-law, her husband, I've hired him already to write, so he's learning that whole thing of writing, and together we're, by the time I leave this career, I hope that it's built in a way that, here you go. The machine is built, and now you can take off.
Carry it on and make it bigger.
There's not enough years in the world for me to accomplish what I want, but my kids will carry that on.
I feel you. Yeah. Well, we want to thank you so much. I've taken so much of your time here. Thank you again for joining us on Green Chili Chisme. You know what that means anyways, by the way? Chisme is like a Spanish word for like grandma's gossiping. You know, kind of. That's what it is.
Okay.
And then the green chili, of course, New Mexico. So.
Right on.
Well, thank you again, and we're going to be looking for all those projects.
Right on.
Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.